Good day, everybody. This video is in response to James Corbett's latest video where he poses the question, is AI real or is it all hype? What an interesting question, and it's generated a lot of discussion. I've thought about it for a few hours this morning, and I'm going to try and make a video, try to make it as coherent as possible to explain my views on that. And I don't think I'm going to be convincing anybody if AI is real or not, but I think when we look at it from a deeper philosophical point of view, we might have to start questioning our fundamental assumptions of the nature of reality. Maybe reality operates a little bit differently than the scientific and the mechanistic view of the world that we've been indoctrinated with. But I think first I'd like to look at that question in the context of, somebody in Pakistan or somebody in Yemen. Is AI real or not? I think you can argue that it's very real, has very serious, dire consequences because it's a tool, and just like any tool, it can be used for destruction, for immorality, for anything. Any purpose someone can come up with can be used for. And in the current theater of wars, AI systems are trying to target terrorists and end up killing civilians. So again, looking at it from that context, it's very real. But is it real in terms of the Skynet takeover, the end of humanity real? We need to be careful of this. Well, whenever the media pushes an idea, I always have to take it with a grain of salt. Because in my view, their job is not to report the truth. It's not to do anything but to manage public perception. And if they can steer your mind in a certain direction, they may be able to convince you of something, like AI is a serious threat to human beings and the destruction of the planet. But to me, this smells like more fear porn, more reason for the powers that shouldn't be, the powers that reside in the shadows, that lurk at meetings like the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderberg groups, things like that. I think, again, it's another tool that they can use to generate more fear. As long as they can generate fear and low vibrational energy out of people, they have a higher chance of remaining dominant and having their positions of power remained in control if they can generate this fear, which I think they do a bang-up job doing. AI could be the next boogeyman they use to scare everybody. They could use the AI to, create more governmental oversight, create more regulatory bodies, create more police. I can see this AI nightmare going in that direction. And I think that's where a lot of the hype the media likes to focus on. I don't think that we need to worry about AI destroying humanity. I think we should be more worried about whether our individual choices on a daily basis are going to contribute to the destruction of the planet, destruction of society, or if your individual contribution is going to help elevate humanity. I think should be our number one concern, not AI. But I understand the question because there is a lot of fear that the media generates from this. So that's my simplistic answer to it. I would say yes and no. AI is real, yes, and it is a lot of hype, yes. But let's get into the more philosophical question that this question is loaded with, which is consciousness. What is consciousness? How can we have a full AI system that mimics human consciousness when we don't even have an accurate definition of what human consciousness is? An accurate model. We think we do, or at least mainstream science claims they do. I think it's very mechanistic in its approach, very material, and wrong, but that's my opinion. There's other scientific theories which we're about to explore, or I'm going to try to explore, that could change your idea or your view of the nature of reality, and thus changing the view of nature of reality, changing maybe your perception or perspective on consciousness. Now this stems from the electric universe perspective and approach to the world and to consciousness, but I have to look at this from a wide angle to try and break it down so people can understand where I'm coming from. When Einstein came up with his theories, he set a cosmic speed limit, which is the speed of light. He disconnected the entire universe doing that. He made things not coherent. This speed of light constant is demonstrably false, and it can be proven false. Any law that humans make can be unmade. We need to humble ourselves with that first before we say, oh, it's a law, the speed of light, you can't break the speed of light. The speed of light's broken all the time, and they have funny names for it, called quantum entanglement and all sorts of weird things. Spooky action at a distance, as Einstein would say. But if we assume Einstein is wrong, or if we can prove Einstein was wrong, and then we can assume from a different foundation that the universe operates not through a etherless universe with a cosmic speed limit, I think we can make a better case for what consciousness actually is. And I'm going to try and put as much information and links in the description to get people started down this path. But let's assume the electric universe perspective is correct, or at least it's on point or on target and heading in the right direction. The electric universe proposes that the universe is awash in neutrinos, very light particles that are there, and they can travel through pretty much anything. This is how information travels through space, because space can't be nothing, because information travels on a wave, and you can't wave nothing. Think about that for a minute. You cannot wave anything. There has to be a medium. There has to be the ether, which was been described by people for thousands of years, or talked about. So if this ether is made up of neutrinos, these neutrinos have a resonant orbital structure about them. Fundamentally, that's how they're made up. Information is carried in a resonant frequency. And, people that have the view of quantum consciousness, and who've listened to Deepak Chopra and those people who give you that view, I feel like this view almost has a relationship in a way to the quantum view of consciousness. But if this whole Earth and universe is in a wash of actual particles that resonate, have a resonant structure about them and a frequency, and our bodies are nothing but antennas, we have the power and the capacity to tune into that. So all the information, what we call consciousness, because I guess one of the definitions of consciousness is becoming self-aware, or the more awareness you have, the more conscious you become. Well, if that information is everywhere around us, and all we have to do is tweak our antennas, tweak the dials, and tune into that, well, maybe that is the information that we're receiving. It's everywhere. And this is interesting when you look at extinctions, and then explosions of life that happen after. It almost can't be explained in our current view of looking at the world. And in my view and some other people's views, that information is resonating all around us. This is why life seems to spring up just like that. This is why I think if the conditions are right for life on another planet, somewhere else in the solar system, the vastness of space, that information, again, because we're disconnecting from Einstein's speed of light constant, this information travels almost instantaneous throughout the universe, and that this information will be there on other planets provided the conditions are there and life seems to generate itself. Now, that may not be a very satisfactory answer to everybody, but when you boil it down, we don't know that much about the world. We are so ignorant. All we can do for the most part is observe, test our observations, and speculate. There's, I don't think, any universal truths. The only universal truth is the truth that you have and that you choose to believe, because it doesn't matter what anyone else believes. So if you don't necessarily agree with what I say, explain to me why and then give me your beliefs, because I'm interested in other people's beliefs. But I think, again, to answer your question, James, is AI real or is it all hype? Depends on the context you ask that question in. Because, man, it can generate some deep philosophical conversations about life and consciousness. So to reiterate my point about consciousness, I think that in order to properly understand it, we have to properly understand how the physical world works and how we relate to the physical world and how we can tune into it and how our bodies are nothing but antenna and receivers, our cells. You know, they receive information and they act accordingly. We receive information and we act accordingly. We process things faster than the speed of light. People who have studied the dynamics of muscle function and reaction come up with the same conclusion that Einstein's wrong. The speed of light constant doesn't make sense, because things, in order to work in this universe, they have to happen coherently and instantaneous. And my last example about this would be, if it takes 8 minutes for light to reach the Earth, how does the Earth know where to be in relation to the Sun using a gravitational model? How does it know if we're using this cosmic speed limit? It can't. The Earth would fly out into space. We wouldn't be here. So there has to be this coherency, this spooky action at a distance, this almost instantaneous speed, which people have calculated how fast the speed of gravity has to be in order for it to stay where it is. And I'll find those calculations and post them. But if we start looking and changing our fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality, and we start looking at it through different lenses, I think the question of consciousness can be answered more coherently, more clearly. Again, we might not ever reach a unified conclusion, and who cares if we do or don't. It's just interesting that these questions are being asked, and there's the technology available where I can answer that question or give my own view and then put it out there into the world and see what else other people have to say about it. So I think that's all I'm going to say for that, and hopefully, James, you have time to watch this video. If not, hopefully some other people watch this video, and let's generate some deeper discussion on this topic. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.